Okay, so we've got all the parts of this Rolex 2135. They've been through the ultrasonic cleaner now, and we're going to start reassembling this movement now. So got the main plate in the movement holder that you can see there, and it is all very nice and shiny now. It's pretty shiny before, but now it's even shinier. And we're going to start with an equally shiny and clean mainspring. The calendar works. Just to check again, the track, you see that's really, now the battery, it's really nice and smooth. That's a Rolex. Okay, let's turn it over. So, you know, your watch is powered by this. This wants to be immaculate before we put this back in. As you can see there, that's all been cleaned out and is looking good. And the first thing we're going to put in is the second wheel, so we're just going to do a little bit of a very small amount of lubrication on the jewel for the second wheel there. He said with his loop bashing the camera. So just take the second wheel now and place it in the movement. There's a little overhang on the case, so if it looks like it doesn't go in, don't worry, it does actually overhang into. There we go, just make sure it turns nicely, and then likewise tiny little bit of lubricant on the for the mainspring barrel, which sits in this orientation above it. Tiny little bit of lubrication there, and just plopping the main barrel down on top. Okay, I'm using brass tweezers because brass is softer than steel, and just give that a little turn. You can see that those two wheels are knitted together as they should be. Okay, so we are now, and before we put the rest of the train in, we're just going to put in the minute wheel pinion bridge. So let's just, actually before we do that, let's just give a little bit of lubrication to the minute wheel pinion. Very sparing on the lubrication, don't need much. There we go. Pop the bridge on. Okay, that looks nicely in place. Get the correct screws for it, which we kept with the component. Pop those in. Like so. And again, using the right size screwdriver, come in. Okay, we're just going to put the escape wheel in now. And this definitely needs a tiny little bit of lubrication on the jewel, very important. And you don't need much. Find our escape wheel. And just seat that in like so. That's good. Okay, now for the other wheels in the train. Just come in with the third wheel. And the fourth wheel. And put a little bit of lubrication on that as well. Okay. Okay. All that looks good. And now we're going to, now that major part of the train is in, we are going to put the train bridge on. Now it's really important when you put the train bridge on that you make sure that you line up all of the pivots correctly and never screw down the train bridge until you've checked that the whole train is running nice and smoothly and all the pivots are through their jewels. Otherwise you will snap off a pivot, and that is a bad thing to do. And so just coming in with the bridge now. And what you have to do is jiggle that around until the pivots come through, and then make sure that all the pivots are through, and screw it down. I'm not going to film that, a little bit tricky, so I'm going to go to the point now where the train bridge is in. And when you've done that, this is the kind of action that you're looking for. Okay. Really nice smooth action on the train there. Just nudge the barrel and you can see the third and fourth wheels spinning really nicely there in their pivots. And if you look closer you can see the skate wheel as well, spinning even faster. So that is how you want it to look at this stage. Here's the barrel bridge that I've put back together. We took all these wheels apart and cleaned them. And just before you put it back in, it's good just to check the operation of it. As you can see now, that moves nicely. So all we've got to do now is pop in the click spring in here. Now you have to be really careful with that. Get the orientation right. The end of the spring sticks out at this end, the top end on the frame. And be really careful that you don't let it ping across the room before you turn this over to insert it. So let's do that now. Okay, so we've placed the ratchet wheel here back on, and the click spring is back on the barrel bridge. You can probably just see it there. And what we're going to do now is flip that on top of the movement and secure that down. Okay, so I've just jiggled that onto the correct pivots in the correct location, and it's secured down by 2 screws. just bear in mind that the one on the upper part of the bridge, unsurprisingly, is the longer of the two screws. So this is the long one, and this here is the shorter one down there. So just going to secure those on now. Make sure you use the right size screwdriver for this. I'm running out of room here, so I'm just going to do this and I'll come back to you. And now with the click spring protruding through here, I don't know whether you can see, it's about there, we're just going to fit the click and secure that down with its retention screw. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so that is the click back in with its retention screw. When you've done it, it's just a good idea just to get in there and just check its operation, make sure that it is springing back. And now, before we turn this movement over to start on the other side, the calendar works, just to check again the train, and as you see, that's really, now the barrel bridge is in, that is really nice and smooth. That's a Rolex. Okay, let's turn it over. Okay, on this side of the movement, we're actually going to start with the part of the watch that controls the movement of the calendar wheel, and so let's get those components out now and make sure that we got a little bit of lubrication on here, not too much. Oops. And that would be great if it was the right way up. So let's just flip that the right way up. Okay. And that in she goes like that. Okay, and this alarm has got a jewel on the end of it, so we're just going to place that in now with a very light piece of lubrication. This is very light lubrication. Yeah, just a touch there. Oh, a bit too much. If you get a little bit too much, and just get a little piece of Rodico and mop that up. Actually, it's not too bad, but there we go. That's better. Better is good. Okay, so coming in with a jewel that sits on top of this lever. Okay. And just placing that on top, like so. Okay, so just placing that jewel on there. And the next component that we want to put on it is the unlocking yoke cam. See if we can find that. Okay, so I've placed back this spring here, which keeps tension against this lever, a dual lever, which pushes against the unlocking yoke cam, which is this component here. So don't want to hang around now really, because it's not secured down. So we're going to get a screw on that now, and then we're going to put the calendar wheel on top of all of that. And there's another screw that needs to go in there, so I'm just going to do that lot now, and we're just going to secure that down with its screw. Now remember that this one is another one of those ones that has the 3 parallel lines on it, and that means that you screw it in the opposite direction that you would normally do. So to get this to screw down, we're going to do it anti-clockwise. Okay, so we're going to put the hour wheel on, or we're going to put the minute wheel on now, and then we're going to get over towards the keyless works. So let's get a little bit of lubrication for this. Again, very little lubrication required. Less is more where lubrication is concerned. Okay, a little bit there on the post, and let's grab the minute wheel and pop him on. Okay, and the minute wheel should knit in there with the cannon pinion, which it does. And then we can also put a little bit of lubrication on the outside of the cannon pinion. You don't want lubrication on the inside of the cannon pinion, but you can have it on the outside. Again, not much. And we're going to chuck the hour wheel on. Let's do that. And voila. And you can see now that that knits in with the calendar wheel, as you would expect the hour wheel to be driving the calendar wheel round. That is logical. Captain. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to put in the stem, the winding pinion and the clutch. So let's do that now. If we can find them. And they should be around here somewhere. Yep. Here is the clutch. It's sometimes also called the castle pinion for obvious reasons. Pop that in there. Oops, that's the wrong way around. Okay. So pop that in there, like so. And then we're going to get the winding pinion. This winds the watch. Just going to put a little bit of lubricant on that to try and reduce the wear on that. Very small amount. Okay, so I put a very small amount of lubrication on the winding pinion. Just drop that in there. And then we can put some lubrication on the stem. And okay, so we're just going to pop on the intermediate wheel here. Okay, and that's good. Okay, so you can see that I've got the spring installed there now. So we're going to continue with the keyless works now, just to make sure that that is held down firmly and doesn't ping out. And the next thing that we're going to put in is the setting lever, which is nicely done by Rolex. Like so. Okay. There we go. And then the other parts of the keyless works. Okay, so I put in the keyless works now, and I've also put in the calendar wheel jumper. So just a couple of things that when you're doing this, the things to note. So and just a couple of things to note when you're doing this. So this component of the keyless works, this lever here goes in first, okay, and then so and before we just check the operation of the keyless works, I just want to tell you the order in which they go in. So this lever here, the one that pushes the clutch back onto the winding pinion, that goes in first. This one goes in second with the screw here. This is one of the two larger screws in the keyless works. Then this spring here that pushes down on the setting lever, okay, that one in next, and that's one of the larger screws. Then you've got this main assembly here with these three screws, 1, 2, 3, and they go in last of the keyless works, and then you pop in the calendar wheel jumper spring here. Now you can get yourselves in a pickle here if you're not careful, because these screws here, this one, and these three on this plate here, they're really quite small, and if you need to be careful that they don't ping across the room. They're a little bit like the springs. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Be careful when you're doing these tiny screws. So I said during the disassembly video that this was the place where you should check the operation of the keyless works. So that we're going to do this now, and at the moment they are in the winding position. Okay, if we were to turn the movement over there, the train would be going crazy. Okay, if we put them out one click, okay, see them change and go into the winding the calendar, okay, and if you pull them out another click, okay, you can see now it's setting the time on the hands there. Okay, so that's good. Let's move forward and put on the rest of the calendar works. And we're going to flip over the movement and put the pallet fork in the automatic works, and then we're nearly done. Okay, let's do that. And there are the calendar, and there is the calendar wheel back on. You just have to make sure that you engage the jumper spring here between these very sharp teeth, and don't try and push it beyond. Don't worry about that little gap there between this retention clip and the jeweled center is so that you can get it out again. Okay, so we're going to flip the movement on. We're going to flip the movement over now and crack on with the other side. Okay, so we're just putting the pallets in now. We're going to put the pallet bridge on in a second. The pallet fork is now in here, as you can see. If you forget, as I did, to put in the balance stop, which are these two components here, then rather than strip the barrel bridge right down, if you just loosen this screw here and lift it up a little bit, you can just slot these parts in, but it's better if you do it before the barrel bridge goes in. Okay, so we're going to put the pallets bridge in now, and then we're ready for the automatic works. Okay, the pallet fork bridge is in now. I didn't film it. It is very, very tricky to do, and you have to make absolutely sure this pivot is through here and through the bottom before you torque up these two screws here. Otherwise you're just going to break the pallet fork pivot, and that is going to be a major bore. So that's that. We're going to put the automatic works on now, and we're pretty much good to go. Then stick the dial on some hands and we're good. And just looking now at the automatic works as we reassemble them, and this is what it should look like before we put the automatic device bridge back on. So don't forget that little wheel in the middle there. that actually drives everything. Okay, we're going to put the bridge on now and put the automatic works on, and we're getting close. Okay, well that's a nice sight. Before we put the automatic works back on, I've just put the balance back in, and as you can see, it's beating away there nice and strongly, so that's good. So automatic works now on, dial hands, and we're good. Okay, and there is the movement all back together with the automatic works on, and you can, if you give it a little shake, it should just shift like that. Okay, you can get it caught, so it's got to sit nicely, so the rotor arm at the top does actually move like that when you shake it. Okay, so that's good. Let's put the dial on. And there we are, hands and dial back on and ready to go back into the case. You just need to be careful when you put the hands on that you make sure that they're at midnight as the date flicks over. So you wind on the watch until the date flicks over, and then using a tool not dissimilar to this, you put the hands on. Okay. Okay, and here's an interesting shot for you just to finish this video. I think sometimes when you're watching these videos, certainly even myself, I tend to lose the sense of scale. And of course, you know, throughout this video I've been working on quite a small movement, and I've just put it on top of a pocket watch movement that I've also been working on this week, which is nicely restored there. So I've been busy, you know, man's got to eat and everything. And as you can see, the whole movement of this Rolex Lady Datejust 26mm version is, you know, only just bigger than the balance on the pocket watch. And, you know, I think that's a size 16 pocket watch. So that would be, when it's in its case, about 50mm across. Anyway, I just thought I'd show that to you. So if you like this video, please give it a like. And if you like my videos generally, then please subscribe. And I'm also on Patreon now. So, you know, if you want to support me in my work, maybe buy me the equivalent of a coffee a month, you can support me on Patreon, and I'll put the link to that in the description below. But from the watch bench here in Perrett Dock with the Rolex 2135 working away there nicely above the Lancashire Watch Company pocket watch, made, I figure, in about 1890, something like that. That's a pretty sight. So from the watch bench here in Perrett Dock, good night and God bless.